What is it?
The stuff that dreams are made of.
Today, we are going to talk about Michael Giordano, the former senior vice president of business affairs at 20th Century Television, now a part of Disney, and what happened when he got busted on OMG Media by Michael O'Keefe, formerly of Project Veritas. This is a story that has gotten a lot of coverage, and so I'm not going to show you clips and I'm not going to go over what Giordano said directly. I'm instead going to tell you, from my perspective as a former entertainment industry executive, why this happened and what you can do about it, and more importantly, how this might even be a leverage up moment for you in your career. There's an old saying, karma may be late, but she always keeps her appointment, as well as the windmills of the gods grind slowly, but oh so finely. And it is in fact true. I have been in the entertainment industry since 1985, and what I have seen happen on a continual basis is that people who are exactly like Mr. Giordano find themselves allowing their egos to be inflated beyond the point of any reasonableness. They feel that they are masters of the universe, to coin the Tom Wolfe phrase from Bonfire of the Vanities. And sure enough, anyone who gets to that point must surely fall. And you might say, but there's so many evil people who haven't fallen. Let's put it this way. The people who haven't fallen are the exception. The vast majority of people do. So to play those odds is like going and taking your last dollars in your bank account and buying lottery tickets. Do not do it. Now, what is the problem with what Giordano did? First of all, he's a senior vice president of business affairs. He went to Harvard. Therefore, he cannot claim he did not know what was happening. Instead, he seemed to find it funny that so many lesser white males were being discriminated against. And yes, you saw that he was a little bit bitter that he didn't get his opportunity to rise above an SVP. Well, guess what? He's probably making nearly $500,000. So I am not weeping for him. But that attitude is what is the real problem within the entertainment industry. And that is this feeling that the rules of the world do not apply to you, that you are somehow special. Add to that, I believe he's a Nepo baby. I believe he went to Harvard, and I believe he's been told his entire life that everything he does is correct. And therefore, he has no problem thinking it's funny when the peasants are forced to suffer. Well, now he's realized he's part of the peasant class, and that is where his real tragedy is going to begin. Because now all of a sudden, all the friends he had had, all the people who were important who hung around him, because they felt that they could get something from him, are going to ghost him. He is going to have no friends at all. One of the best things that was told to me before I entered the entertainment industry came from one of my great mentors, Julie Richards. She had been my boss at Image Organization when I was just a reader. And she had said to me, Dan, the friends you have right now are the only friends that you can reliably count on to be there if your career goes away. Never forget that any friends you make in the entertainment industry, you must assume are friends for rent. That means they are only your friends as long as you have a job that can somehow make them money. And then once you don't have that job, you will never hear from them again. So do not be disappointed if that happens. On the other hand, you will have people who still want to get with you, maybe years, maybe even decades after you leave. And those were your true friends, and you can meet them on the job. And I've got to tell you that when I left Fremantle, I found that to be true. In fact, I found it to be the opposite of what I had thought would happen based on what Julie had said. I thought that I would end up just being totally on my own and having to start over. It turned out that I had more phone calls, more people who came out and did actually help. And the whole reason I'm a teacher now came from that. So this was something that I was pleasantly surprised. But maybe it's because as someone who is non-Caucasian, I never went in there with that sense that I was part of the in club. I always knew I was an outsider in one form or another. And sometimes I thought it much more than I should have. And that hurt me a lot in my career because I always assumed that if anyone ever gave me a break, it was because they felt sorry for me or something like that, not because I had actually earned it, because my parents had perhaps been too good at telling me how, as an Asian, we have to fit within haole society, as we used to call it in Hawaii. So, what can you do with this piece of information? I'm speaking specifically to those of you who have felt that you had been a victim to what Giordani and so many others like him within the industry, who are radical chic, who are into current fashionable social trends, and they put them on and off like last year's outfit at the Met. So it's not serious. If you're someone who's part of the non-Caucasian community, please don't believe it when people approach you and tell you that they find you to be an extraordinary talent and they're going to help you. Perhaps they will. But remember, a lot of times that opportunity is not a real one. That opportunity is because you help them fill in either a checkbox or you give them bragging rights at some other time. Look at the behavior, not the words. If somebody approaches you and says, here's an opportunity, and it's an opportunity that's within your wheelhouse, it is probably genuine, and take it and run with it. If, however, it's an opportunity that is beyond what you should be expecting at this particular career stage, and you have not gotten this kind of feedback from others, take that one with a grain of salt. Wait to see what comes up. And you will probably hear great words about how talented you are and how good you are, and how they can't wait to have a meeting with you with some of their other fellow executives. Be careful, because what they're doing is they're looking at you as a photo op. I hate to put it that way, but that's exactly what's happening. Now, how can you leverage that? You can actually leverage that and make it into a real opportunity. The most important thing to remember is what they're telling you isn't the truth. What instead you have to do is say, okay, this is a Michael Giordano type person. This is someone who feels they are beyond cool and that they're patting you on the head like the smart child in the rural schoolhouse. That's all they're doing. But if you can surprise them by giving them something that's a little bit outside of their expectation, that is the win. So let's say, for example, that you're suddenly getting a big meeting with a big agent. After you've kind of ascertained that you're not competitive with one of their more seasoned clients, and this isn't just a means of getting you off the streets to stop you from being competitive because they're afraid of you, then cool. Take the meeting. Hear what they're saying. Make sure you ask salient questions. The salient question is not about your career. The salient question is to ask them where they think you will be fitting 5 years from now, and see if they have an answer. They might give you a generic answer, but that's better than nothing. But you want to find out from them, what is the metric that I'm filling? Thank you very much for this meeting. I'm very, very happy to be here. I'm very happy that you're giving me this opportunity. and I'm glad you liked my script, whatever it is. And ask them, what part of this script do you think is going to connect with the mainstream audience and will make it something that I can build my later career on? What do you think the strongest marketing position of my script is? They don't have an immediate answer for that. Then you are being kind of shined on. That's okay too. But now you know what cards are on the table. So now you can advance with that in mind. Because at that moment, because you're fashionable or you're a fashionable person that they can talk to other people about, give them an outre type story that you know would be commercial, but they are not thinking you would come up with. Think about Ang Lee. When he was having a lot of success making very Asian type movies at the beginning of his career, what did he do? That's right. He directed Sense and Sensibility. Then he did Brokeback Mountain. So he immediately got himself out of that box of being the resident Asian filmmaker. And he was able to advance very, very far with that. Look at Chloe Zhao and how she jumped from Nomadland directly into a nearly $200 million disaster. That was a mistake. If she jumped from Nomadland into a straight drama that perhaps had bigger stars, but was still a controlled budget, she would have ramped herself step by step into a much stronger position. Instead, she went the wrong way. And what do I mean is the wrong way? If you're a flavor of the month person, and it doesn't matter what niche that is, and it can be any number of different niches, one of the challenges that you're facing is you don't know if you're nefariously being looked at as a token who must fail. And I know that sounds terrible too, but think of it this way. How many non-Caucasian movie makers have found themselves in a position where they are suddenly doing a big budget mainstream picture and it fails? You might say, what's the reason for that? Let me tell you what the reason is for that. The reason for that is so that the people who are making those movies are going to say, this is why we can't hire diverse talent, because they lose money. Don't think that that's part of the game plan overall. Don't think I'm sounding conspiratorial. What happened in the late 70s? You had a huge, I'm going to even say 3 Black Renaissances happening at the same time. And we're talking about everywhere from the low budget pictures with Pam Grier to the mid-budget pictures, which were like the Sidney Poitier movies, Uptown Saturday Night. And then you had the beginnings of a high budget renaissance, especially led by a star like Diana Ross. Lady Sings the Blues. Big hit. Mahogany. Not a good movie, big hit. Equals new movie star, right? Bad movies that are hits define true long-term box office. What was her next movie? The Wiz. What happened to the Black Renaissance that was going on then? It went away until Spike Lee. And Spike Lee had to go all the way back to the beginnings of the art house circuit, and She's Gotta Have It. Fortunately, the timing was right. And yes, it was only a 9-year gap, but 9 years is an eternity in the lives of someone who is trying to rise up. Therefore, what I'm saying is that with Giordano being revealed to supporting a racist and open and notorious series of acts by Disney, we know that they're going to, maybe not tomorrow, but they're going to use that as a way of backing out from a lot of their non-Caucasian, non-straight, non-mainstream commitments. It's happened multiple times during my career. I know what it looks like. Now, how about for those of you who are part of the mainstream community and feel that you have been specifically discriminated against? I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to want to hear. You were. And what does that mean? That means you just merely pivot. There's a whole lot of motion picture and television content that's being done outside of the Hollywood top tier. You won't make the money, but if you're an artist, you do art. It doesn't matter what you get paid. So consider working on lower budget films. Consider working on one of the many movies that Hallmark or Lifetime or any of those others continually make. A lot of those movies are extremely low budget, but they also tend to use a lot of the same crew, a lot of the same people. And yes, you can build your reputation from that. Remember, I entered the entertainment industry during the era of home video, when you had all these direct-to-video companies making movies. And even though you think, well, most of those were POSs, that's kind of true. But there's many of them that you watch today and you go, wow, that's actually a good movie. I wish it didn't have those unnecessarily too long graphic sex scenes in it that are just embarrassing, because the story on this was actually good. And that sex scene, which of course was necessary for it to make a foreign sale, actually hurts it. But nonetheless, you're still seeing good stuff. You're still seeing things that went into profit. You're still seeing things that kept people's careers going. And if you want to act, you act, whether you get paid or not. If you want to write, you write, whether you get paid or not. So do that. Allow yourself to come back into the market because of good work, not because you happen to be filling a single checkbox at a given moment. When the industry has a bad time, and it's definitely having a bad time right now, that is when new careers are made. Take the opportunity. I benefited from it. I, as a fat Asian who came in from Tokyo without connections, without all of that, if I could end up as a vice president of a multinational corporation working on multiple hit shows, admittedly it was Baywatch and it was Family Feud and it was Price is Right, but it doesn't matter. The fact is that that opportunity is there. And especially now, when everything seems to be shutting down, don't look at Michael Giordano as a reason why you can't do it. Look at it as he's indicative of those practices going away. And for those of you who are non-Caucasians, don't take it that your opportunity is going away. No, just say, this is proven that there's a niche. This is proven that there's an audience for this stuff. It's just not $100 million budget audience. The whole world is opening up. Grab the brass ring. I know it's a cliche, but cliches are cliches because they're true.
I got stingy, I got stingy. Whatever Lola wants